For the past 6 episodes, you have heard Bonnie's story. You heard what survival looked like, the abuse, the fear, the instability, the moments that changed everything, and the years spent simply trying to make it through another day. Those episodes told the story of what happened, but this conversation is different. Today is not about reliving the trauma. It is about what came after. Today, I am sitting down with someone I know better than anyone else, my wife, Bonnie Hill. This conversation is not about the painful details we already walked through. It is about healing, about rebuilding a life after survival has been the only thing you know for years, about learning who you are when fear is no longer making every decision for you. We talk about what survival mode actually feels like and how it quietly becomes normal without realizing it. What it means to lose yourself over years of trauma, then slowly rebuild confidence, identity, hope, and trust in yourself again. Bonnie opens up about the emotional freedom that came from finally sharing her story, the fear she had about judgment, and what she wants people in similar situations to understand. This is a conversation about life after abuse, about existing versus truly living, about finding yourself again after years of losing pieces of who you were just to survive. And maybe most importantly, it is a reminder that healing does not happen overnight. But little by little, life can start feeling like life again. Welcome to No One Is Normal, the podcast where real stories remind us that none of us are alone. You can also visit the website www.bradhhill.com or www.nooneisnormal.co for resources, updates, and future podcast episodes. I am Brad H. Hill, and each week we talk about the messy, the complicated, and the deeply human moments that shape us and remain in our memories. I am not here to tell anyone how to live. I am here to offer the stories, the insights that made me realize that no one is normal, including me, because healing starts when self-honesty begins. It's not every day that you get to interview your wife. Thank you, Bonnie, for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my story.
Bonnie, I want this conversation to be different from the 6-part series that we just did. We already walked through the painful parts of your story. Today I want to talk about life after abuse. What healing really looked like, what came back, what still took time, and who you became when survival was no longer the whole story. If there's anything you don't want to answer, you don't have to go there. Okay?
Okay.
Now that the 6 parts of your story have been told, how are you feeling about having it out in the open?
At first, I was really unsure. I was nervous about it. I was worried that people would judge me, what they would think of what I had to live through. I was really apprehensive. I also didn't want to relive it. But that being said, now that it's out there and it's done, I feel a sense of relief, emotional freedom, and I'm really hoping that sharing it helps somebody that might be in my same situation.
Very good. I think a lot of people are in that situation could really use that help, that understanding, and maybe just some inspiration.
Yeah, a lot of times taking that first step is the hardest because you don't know where to start. Where do you even start getting out of a situation like that? What is your first step?
Was it harder than you expected to hear your life turned into a story people would read?
Well, just hearing it all put together like that made me realize that I had really lived through a lot. I think that was what most surprised me, is seeing it all as one story, the weight of it.
Since the series already walked through the painful details, what do you hope this conversation focuses on today?
Well, not just the trauma that I have had to live through, but not just rebuilding my life, but rebuilding myself, because I lost myself through all those years. Not only did I have to rebuild my life and everything in it, I had to rebuild myself and find myself again because I got lost in all the trauma.
Yeah, and I can vouch for that. When we first met to where you're at now, it's a huge difference, right? You know, you still got the hardship, the trauma in the past that's still there, and you're trying to work through that. But I think the big thing is you're now enjoying a life for once.
Living life instead of just existing in it.
That's an important thing for people to really think about for 1 second. and not just living a life, but enjoying it.
Yes, I think a lot of those years I was just in I was in survival mode and I was just existing. A lot of times I didn't really realize I was just existing until I felt what real life was supposed to be like and what it felt like to actually live a normal life that wasn't filled with daily trauma.
Can you describe for some of the listeners who may be feeling it once in a while is what does survival mode feel like?
Survival mode, it creeps in without you realizing that that's what's happening, even though you know that's what's happening, but it becomes your normal. Being on edge all the time, always waiting for the next bad thing to happen or being blindsided the next time. You're always waiting for that next bad thing to come. And now that I have a freer life, as the years go on, I find myself feeling more comfortable and feeling like I'm living life instead of just existing in it.
I think you stated something important there. You were constantly put on edge because there was no reprieve where you don't know what's going to happen next. And that created that kind of fight or flight mechanism that just had that on switch and never turned off, right?
Yeah, you're always on edge and waiting for that next thing. So your body's just always on high alert. And that's very exhausting. You tend to lose yourself in that over the years. And you don't realize that you're just kind of existing from one day to the next.
I suppose you probably just pushed it down and kept going through the motions, and one day turned into the next, and the next day turned into a week, week to month to year, year to decades, and you're just like, what now? So now you've got that different perspective and a different part of life. How has that helped you to have a different outlook on life?
I'm definitely more positive, more optimistic. I've found my hope again. I've been able to believe in myself again. And with your help, build my confidence and do a lot of things that I wasn't able to do all those years.
I'm glad to help. Is there anything you want people to understand before we talk about the life after abuse?
Give yourself time, give yourself grace. The healing isn't going to happen overnight. It's going to take time, a lot of time. Everyone heals at a different pace. Just give yourself the grace on the hard days.
Yeah, I remember when we first were together and started dating, and probably the first 5 years we were together, maybe even 10, when you'd wake up with nightmares and terrors, night terrors, and I had to grab you and hold you tight.
Nightmares every night for a long time. I'm glad they don't happen anymore. Every once in a blue moon, but even when they do, you're always there to hold me. You help me get through the darkness.
I'm happy to. When you first got out, did freedom feel peaceful, scary, confusing, or maybe everything all at once?
To be honest with you, it was a little bit of everything all at once. New territory for me. So a lot of learning new things. But yes, it definitely felt uncomfortable at first. I felt excited, scared, probably every emotion you could think of all at the same time.
Maybe even happy?
A lot of happiness. I'll never forget the way I felt the day that my divorce was finalized. I wasn't physically free yet, but I knew there was light at the end of the tunnel, and I sat in my car and I cried happy tears.
That's good to hear. At least you had that opportunity. You knew that there was a way to get out of it, a way to have it hopefully end where you can get out and get away, where some people never really got that opportunity and never got so lucky. What surprised you most about being alone after living in chaos for so long?
I think the silence, I wasn't used to the silence. I was always listening for something to happen.
What surprised you most about being alone after living in chaos for so long?
I think the peace, the quiet, and the silence. Even though I wanted the peace and I welcomed it, I felt very uneasy. It was awkward. I wasn't used to it. It wasn't my normal. It was very not normal for me. So I was on edge a lot.
Yeah, I can't imagine. It's like going from a big city to a quiet farm. You kind of start missing those noises sometimes, and some people are like, "Oh, I'll never miss that," but occasionally be like, it's a little quiet. You can kind of hear yourself thinking. Sometimes that's not good for people to do, but sometimes people need that to be able to sit and be in their own head and kind of think it through and be able to hear their own thoughts and not have somebody else drilling it into their head.
Yes.
What were some of the small everyday things that felt huge once you could finally make your own choices?
Oh, there were tons. A lot of just little things that most people don't think of. My hair, my makeup, my clothes. making my own decisions, what I wanted to wear that day. I mean, a lot of people don't realize even those small things were controlled in my life. So being able to make those choices on my own felt really good. I could take my time. I didn't have to rush anymore.
Was there a moment when you realized I do not have to explain myself anymore?
Yes. However, that did take me a while. We've been together for many years now, and I think every once in a while I'll catch myself saying, "Hey, I went here, here, and here, and I'm doing this next." And I know I don't need to tell you those things, but old habits are hard to break. But yeah, I did that for probably the first 2 or 3 years that we were together. I would catch myself explaining where I was going or what I was doing. You're not asking me those things, so why am I offering it? It took me a while to stop doing that. I don't have to answer anybody but me.
And I'm just like, okay, well, cool. That's great. Awesome. Glad you did that. Glad you did those 15 things.
Yeah, you're probably like, why are you telling me everything you're doing today?
Thank you for the play by play.
Got my own list of things to do.
Were there habits from survival that stayed with you even after you were physically safe?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's some things that I still do. I still check locks all the time. I second guess myself a lot, but I'm still working on all those things. And if the worst outcome is me checking the locks 5 times before I go to bed, that's okay.
Yeah, I tend to agree with something like that. It's better to be on the safe side. And sorry, especially after the environment and the life you had before the fundamental changes.
And for me, those things aren't because I still am in fear or I feel unsafe. It's just something that my body is so used to, I haven't been able to break the physical habit of it yet.
Like people checking the stove, curling iron, making sure they didn't leave the water running, make sure they didn't leave the car running in the driveway.
Yeah, things like that. Just the basic things.
Just the basic things. Like a car running in the driveway. I'd be a little worried about that one. You might want to check with the doctor. Did you catch yourself still preparing for conflict even when there was nothing coming?
Yes, I tend to, even at work with a customer, if someone tends to get on the defensive end of things, even in a nicer, calm way, my nervous system tends to kick in. That's something I'm still working on.
That's a hard thing that most people don't understand when you've been through something like you've been through. That is very hard when you have somebody coming in putting pressure on you and making you feel bad.
Yes, exactly. That is unfortunately one of the things that is my trigger. And it has happened at work. I put on my professional face as best I can. I usually get through it, no problem. But as soon as I diffuse the situation, I usually have to step away and calm myself down because even though I'm calm and I know I'm safe and I'm okay because I'm at work, I'm the one in control, my nervous system does take over sometimes. So I just have to calm myself back down. And that's just an ongoing process.
We live in a society where everybody wants an instant response, and sometimes that doesn't happen. And they come back with aggression. And I think people need to understand that people cannot see what you've been through. People are really good at masking it. And then something like that can trigger somebody. And then they're like, well, why did you get upset? Because you put me in an uncomfortable situation. You didn't know my past, but you created a situation for me to really just want to close myself off and not even react to you because it's creating an anxiety for me.
And when you're someone who has been through trauma, when they're triggered, your physical reactions will start taking over, even if your mind is telling you that you're okay, you're safe, you're calm, your nervous system will take over. And that's difficult to handle in some situations.
How long did it take you before peace started feeling real instead of suspicious?
It took a lot longer than I thought it would. I was always waiting for the next thing to go wrong.
Kind of like Murphy's Law, right? Anything that could go wrong would go wrong, and then that was always that feeling.
Yeah, and considering how my past had went, I was always looking for the next bad thing to happen because it usually did.
Well, when there's a lot of bad that outweigh the good, there's a lot more of a spectrum that you can deal with on the bad, right? It's never you're 80% bad, 20% good.
I was so used to, even if a couple of good things happened, it always meant there was something bad around the corner. And that's not always true.
Yeah, for most people, there's that kind of sine wave, good thing, bad thing, good thing, bad thing. A lot of people in trauma, it's bad, bad, good day, bad, 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 good day. It's a little more segmented to the negative and the fear, right?
Yes, I think that time and consistency with safe environments, safe people, safe friends, that helps.
You hit on something very important there. The support group for people that have stuff like this going on in their life. Some people don't have it because of the isolationism, the gaslighting, but I think that's probably one of the most important things is to find people who, one, believe your story, two, are willing to help, and three, will do anything to kind of help you out of that situation, right?
Yes, it's very important to have a good support system, someone you can trust, someone you can confide in, someone you feel safe with.
When this was going on, was there somebody that kind of helped you, and what did they do to kind of help you through that struggle?
That's a very important part of it. Make sure that you have a good support system, not just friends and family, but a safe person that's your rock. That when you're really at your bottom of your bottom and you don't know what your next step is, you go to that person and they're going to help you see the light at the end of the tunnel. They're going to help you get down that dark hallway. They're going to help you get to the other side.
Now, one of the things you had to rebuild your relationship with your mother.
I didn't tell my family, my friends, not even my mom. I didn't share my story with anybody. I hid it from the world, literally. So that being said, my mom found out about my story on social media by accident. I had decided that one day I was going to sit down and talk to her about this, but that day hadn't come before she stumbled upon it herself. So she asked me about it and asked me why I didn't reach out to her. She was very hurt that I didn't reach out to her, and I went through all of that thinking that she wouldn't help me because I know in my heart that she would have, but I just endured what I endured. So one of my first steps was reaching back out to family, friends, and rebuilding all those connections that have been lost and helping them understand why those connections got broken and working on rebuilding them.
Some of what has to happen is rebuilding those relationships, finding those safe places, and trying to get those people back in your life on your side. And you published the story that we worked on it, and you published it for a domestic violence piece. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I have a friend who is in modeling and networking. She did a survivor warrior project. She approached me about sharing my story. I originally had declined. I didn't want to relive the trauma. I didn't want people to know what I had went through. I hadn't shared it with my family. I didn't want people to know what I lived through. So I had initially said no and declined. After talking about it with my spouse,
Who's that guy?
maybe sharing my story might help someone. And that's what made me rethink. You know, if I can help someone else with what I had to struggle through, that's what made me change my mind. I wanted to help someone else because I don't want to see anyone in that situation. I wasted so many years of my life. So that's what made me reconsider. I did the story with her. I basically the assignment was write your story of your trauma that you lived, and we did that, and that was very freeing. It helped me through a lot more of the trauma than I thought. I thought that I was okay because I had moved on when I really hadn't processed a lot of things yet. And that's an ongoing process, I think. Even we're how many years into this, 10, 13 years past, I'm still working through things. And I think I always will. Healing is an ongoing process.
Healing's a marathon, not a race, right? What most people won't understand in your story is how come you didn't leave. But when we started working on this project, it put it into perspective for me so I could understand what you were going through, because you and I could have a conversation, but it wouldn't probably tell the story that I needed to hear from your story to understand why you were there.
Yes, the process of writing my story helped me a lot more than I thought it would as far as my healing journey personally. It was a huge step in my healing process. I felt like a weight had been lifted off my chest.
To kind of understand some of the things and not blame myself for some of the things that happened. There's plenty of things in my life that I blame myself for that I earned, right? It's my badge of blame. I did it. It was my fault. But there's a lot of things that people hold that badge of blame, and it doesn't say their name, it's somebody else's name.
And unfortunately, we tend to carry that guilt. I think writing down, journaling, whether it's writing a story, journaling, or however, just processing your trauma is healing in itself.
Between journaling and trying to open that line of communication with somebody that you can trust, absolutely trust,
Yes.
tell the story, and make sure, be honest. I think some people don't want to tell the story because of the crap that's in there, right? But some people want to hide the details because they don't want to be vulnerable. and they don't want people to understand. And you don't want to be questioned. You don't want to sometimes burden somebody. So there's a lot of feelings that comes to wanting to open that corridor of conversation. But I think it's really important for that to happen to help you to start talking about it or journaling. Or if you don't want to talk with somebody, get that journal out, start writing.
Yes, writing through it helped me so much. It was very therapeutic. I highly recommend it.
So, how did modeling, photos, makeup, clothing, and self expression help you reclaim parts of your identity?
Those were things that were all pretty much denied to me when I was with him. So even those little, being able to make those small choices myself was such a good feeling. Wear my hair however I wanted, pick out my own outfit, not worry about someone judging what I wanted to do that day or how long I took at the grocery store. It's the small things.
Or even like trying to cover up bruises with makeup and stuff like that.
Yes, yes.
So, when you started doing the modeling again, you started working with a group of people that had events where you went with photographers and models, and you got to create this art with a bunch of different people. How was that as an experience for you?
That was very eye-opening, kind of shocking. I didn't think I'd ever have the courage to do anything like that or the confidence. It helped me express myself because I had to take my own personality and stuff it down on this dark place and put everyone else's needs first for so many years. I was finally able to discover myself again, and that helped.
And you got to have a pretty cool assistant, right?
And I have the best assistant ever. Carries all my heavy stuff for me.
Yeah, it's not just one outfit, it's like 47 and then a couple wardrobes. What did it feel like to make choices based on what you wanted instead of what would keep someone else calm?
It felt really good to be able to think of me first instead of always thinking how my choice would make someone feel or what I would say, how they might react to it. It felt really good to be able to make my own choices by what I want and not have to worry about what someone else is going to think or how they're going to react or if they're going to get mad because I took too long.
You've always had kind of that caretaker role with your father, your husband, animals. You at one point had done something for animal rescues. Can you talk a little bit about that just to tell the story of the importance of helping animals that are in need?
Yeah, I've always been an animal lover and I've always wanted to help animals and people. During my years in my past, I would always try to find little things that would help me feel important or like I mattered or like I was doing something important in life other than just existing. So there was a food pantry here that opened in town here back, I believe it was a food pantry to help people who were struggling with groceries. But there's nothing to help people that are struggling to feed their pets. So I decided to try to partner with this food pantry and ask them if we could collect for food for pets as well. We ended up partnering together and weekly I would go around to different donation spots. I think I had about 15 of them at the time. I would collect donations, take them to the food pantry, and there was a special shelf at the food pantry just for the animals. So people that were in need of groceries could also feed their pets too instead of having to surrender.
I think that's important. Sometimes people have situations they have to surrender pets and they're innocent in the whole situation, and finding ways to rescue I think is paramount. And most empaths, that's one of the things that they really care about is making sure other people or animals have better situation than what they had, right?
Yes, yes. I have a real passion for always wanting to help everyone or save everyone. And I think that maybe comes from hoping that someone was going to save me. All those years, I kept hoping something's going to change, things are going to get better, someone's going to save me. And that's not going to happen. You got to save yourself.
It's easy for me to say I want to make a change, but when you got to say want to make a change and you have somebody else saying you're not changing, that's a whole different animal, right?
Yes, yes. It's very difficult when you want to make changes in your life and you're being controlled, your every move. At some point, you have to decide if you want to keep being controlled or if you're going to take that first step to make a change.
So after years of being what people call gaslit, was it hard to believe your own feelings were valid?
Yes, it took me a little while to start believing in myself again because I spent so many years second guessing myself and downplaying the validity. So, yes.
Yeah, I still sometimes when we have conversation, I still catch you not believing in yourself, and I still have feel that doubt, and I try to help you work through that. Sometimes it's hard because sometimes it's so much history, but I think from an outsider looking in, my job for you is to be patient and bring as much understanding as I can from my perspective into your environment to make you feel safe to want to say it. Has that helped?
Yes, I need a lot of reinsurance. And thankfully, you're really good at that. That helps me through when I do struggle. Unfortunately, a lot of people who go through trauma do need constant reassurance. And sometimes others aren't always comfortable with that, or they feel like you're needy. And that's not the case. Sometimes we just need a little nudge to let us know that we're okay.
Yeah, I know that is difficult. For me, it's really difficult to accept praise, right? Don't know why. I'm just used to doing things and then looking back and saying, okay, next. And sometimes I know you get that way sometimes too. And I think some of the things that you do, you really minimize how important they are for me and for you, right? There's a lot of things in life that you've done that have tremendously helped me as well that you don't see.
I'm glad. I'm glad that it's a two-way street. I lived a one-way street for so many years. It feels really good to feel equal and to matter and to have someone in my life that I can trust no matter what.
Yeah, at least it wasn't a dead end, right?
No, it was a new beginning.
How did you learn not to blame yourself for the ways you survived?
Well, I often have to remind myself that I did what I had to survive the situation. It wasn't easy. It was very hard. There's a lot of shame and guilt that I carry because of it, but I did what I had to survive what I was living.
What most people probably, again, I go back to is they're not going to understand the situation and what you'd went through, and it, and most people in the situation that you were in, it is definitely, unless you've lived it, most people don't know what it's like, right? You watch a movie or something where you see something that happened that's a portrait of one time or a couple times in the movie, but it's more than that in a long-term setting, right?
Yes, when I look back, I try to give myself a little bit of grace on the days when I'm having a little bit of a hard day because I did what I had to at the time to get through.
What helped you become gentler with yourself?
Brad's support a lot, mostly, helping me understand that it's not my fault and the guilt that I carry is not my fault, that I can let it go. I can be myself. I don't have to carry this the rest of my life. And time and understanding. Be patient with yourself. It's not going to happen overnight. Don't expect it to. I'm, what, 13 years free, and I still struggle. I still have bad days. I still have days where Brad has to hold me tight because I'm scared. And sometimes I don't even know why I'm scared. But just give yourself grace when you do fall back into the darkness because you can always step back into the light. Don't stay in the dark.
That's a really important thing for people to understand is the darkness sometimes will feel heavy and it sometimes wants to keep coming back, but try to find the light, try to find something to get you in a different situation, a different mindset. I think that is really important for people to want to understand.
Healing is messy. You're not going to just all of a sudden wake up one day and say, I'm healed. Everything's okay. That's not going to happen. Don't expect it to. I expect even maybe 30 years from now, I might still have a bad day, and that's okay because I survived my trauma. Give yourself the grace when you have the ups and downs. Healing is messy.
It is messy, and I think a lot of people listening can contest to that because it's not a. It's like this. You're doing like a scribble graph, right? And
Yep.
there's days when you're happy, you're almost to the moon, and there's days when you just getting out of bed is just it's like you're glued to the bed and you just don't want to get out. Sometimes you have those struggles, but I think the important thing is ride the highs and try to get out of the lows as much as possible.
Yes. And sometimes your days might look like triggers and crying. Some days they might just look like, hey, I didn't react to that the way I used to.
From where you're at to where you are now, you can tell your triggers aren't quite as sharp as they used to be. You can tell you are starting to feel safe in your own skin, feel safe in the environments around you, building relationships that matter to you, and keeping the ones that are really important to you close, because that's your tribe, right? The people that you need in your life and want in your life, that are going to be there to support you, and not the people who are just going to be there for vanity, or not the people that are just going to be there when they need something from you. I think that's an important distinction too, is finding the people that want to be there for you and not for what you offer besides who you are.
Yes, that is a huge one. And being someone who's not only lived through trauma, but also a huge empath, you have to be careful because sometimes you're the target of people who want to just reach out to you for what you have to offer them. Make sure that it's a two-way street always, because otherwise that's draining.
Yeah, people love to take advantage of people when they find opportunities, when they can, right? I have it happen to me, and I get people constantly barraging me with, "Hey, I can do this, blah blah blah," and it's like, well, come on, can you? Or are you just trying to use me for something? Or I've tend to protect myself a lot more, where I don't let those types of people that, if it's not a two-way street like you talked about, I don't want you in my life. There's no purpose for me. If it's a one-way street, I have no purpose to sit there and push that to somebody. There's no reciprocation from that person, and it got to the point where I'm enough. I'm not gonna sit there and ask or beg for somebody to be part of my life when I don't want that. Has
Yes.
that been has that helped you a little bit to get those people out of your life?
Yes, the people that you surround yourself with, especially those first few years when you're healing, you're still trying to discover yourself and put those band-aids on, that is very important. Get yourself out of that toxic environment, toxic people. If there's anyone that's toxic or draining in your life, you need support, definitely through your healing process. Support is so important. Make sure that it's not a one-way street. It's got to be a two-way street. Otherwise, you're not only struggling because you're healing, you're struggling because someone else is draining you. So make sure that it's a supportive two-way relationship.
Some people have a band-aid or two, and some people are wrapped up like mummies, right?
Yep. Yes. Some of us need the whole case of gauze.
How did your understanding of love change after everything you lived through?
Well, this one is huge because now I know what true love feels like. True love doesn't take away your voice, your freedom, your identity. True love helps your soul bloom.
Yeah, instead of taking things away, it's adding things like values.
Yes. It adds to you, it enriches you, helps you feel free and be yourself. Be the you that you were meant to be.
Yeah, I think that's where people struggle, is sometimes they don't think that they provide a value, and sometimes it's hard for people to admit that they do bring a lot to the table. They bring a lot to a relationship. They bring a lot of good things, and sometimes we as human beings are sometimes more negative because of the fight or flight response. And having those positive affirmations on both ends really helps when you have two people who can try to lift each other up. If one person's tearing somebody down, that's just dragging on the boat.
Yes, you definitely need to know that person loves you, believes in you, can trust you. And that's such a good feeling to feel that 100% and fully, not have that doubt or that fear enter the picture, knowing that you're truly safe, you're truly loved, truly respected, and feeling it in your soul.
And there is a fine line on that, where if you're expecting somebody to do something and you're overburdening them to make you feel better, you got to be careful of that side of the coin too, where people can really just not respond well because you're overburdening them with what you need, and it needs to be mutual so you both can build each other. What does healthy love feel like for you now?
Healthy love feels like living and not just existing. That's what healthy love feels like. I feel like I'm living my life now. I'm learning new things. I'm having new experiences, new opportunities. I'm not just existing in a shell.
And I think that's important too, is you having a voice. A lot of things that you were deprived of for many years, right?
Yes, my voice, my identity. To be honest, there was a lot of times I was afraid to even speak because I might say the wrong thing. So when I say I literally lost my voice, that is true in some situations. So being able to speak freely, be myself, is also freeing and it feels good. It feels good to live instead of just exist.
I'm glad you have that opportunity.
I'm hoping that when people read my story in the book, especially if it's someone that is still trapped in a situation similar, I'm hoping it gives them the courage to take that first step. Reach out to somebody. Just take that first step to get out of that situation. Once you take that first step, that's the scariest one. It all gets easier. And I'm not saying it's easy, but you got to take that first step. I'm hoping my story might encourage someone that is trapped in a bad situation to take that step. Freedom is out there, just reach for it.
So if somebody's looking to kind of take that first step, I know you probably did a lot of looking and a lot of trying to find resources. Is there anything that you can help? If you don't know anything, that's fine. But if there's anything you can say to kind of help people to start to reach out, is there any avenues they can use or anything they can use to help themselves?
Well, if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to, say, shelters or authorities, resources like that you can find online, there's got to be a coworker, a friend, even let's say the clerk at the gas station. So for me, I obviously did not feel safe enough to reach out to a shelter or police. At some point, I would share little brief stories with, say, the gas station clerk. Even if it's something simple like that, talk to someone, anyone, even if it's a stranger. Getting it out, even if you don't take that step that day, if you tell a stranger, you're still taking a step.
Yeah, that had to have been hard because you're putting absolute trust into somebody with your story, your vulnerability, and to open that up, that really takes a lot of courage.
It's hard. It's definitely not easy. It takes a lot of courage, but it's a necessary thing. The reward of having your freedom and being able to be yourself is so worth it.
What would you tell someone who confuses intensity, jealousy, or control with love?
Jealousy and protectiveness might seem flattering, but those are red flags. Real love doesn't take away your freedoms, your voice. It shouldn't instill fear in you. Those are definitely red flags. Be on the lookout for them. Jealousy or commenting on your clothing, what you're wearing. Those types of things are red flags. They're not flattering.
Yeah, and I would definitely add isolationism to the box too, right?
Yes, isolation. If they don't want you to hang out with your mom, your girlfriend on an afternoon, those are red flags. Wanting all of your attention and not giving you any time for yourself. Those are red flags. They may seem like it's because they love you so much, but even two people that love each other don't need to be together 100% of the time. Each individual needs to have their own individuality, and taking that away from you is a red flag.
The other twist to that is besides the isolationism, it is the turning the story around to be your fault when you try to do the things that you want to do.
Yes, I can give an example. At one point, I don't remember what year it was, but I had reached out to what used to be my best friend in high school. And I said, hey, do you want to, let's go grab lunch or let's go take a walk to the mall. The mall was a thing back then. So we did. He had agreed to let me do that. And I did. We just went walking through the mall. We had a couple of sodas and we talked about old times. Well, when I came home that afternoon and I walked everywhere, so it took us a little while. I was berated about where I went. What did I do? Did I really do those things? And I immediately felt shame and felt bad, even though I didn't do anything bad. All I did was reach out and try to reconnect with an old friend, but the isolation, and I couldn't see that as a red flag back then. I mean, I knew it was kind of wrong that he wasn't letting me hang out with my friend, but did I see it as something that was controlling or abusive? I didn't really understand at that point. That's what that was.
Or knowing then what you know now, that red flag would have came up really quick, right?
That red flag would have poked me in the eyeball, probably. Yeah.
What are you most proud of about the woman that you became after all of this?
Well, first of all, surviving it, is that in itself is surprising. But I think most of all, I'm most proud that it didn't turn me into someone who's bitter. It didn't change who I am on the inside. I'm still kind. I'm still loving. I'm still very compassionate. I didn't let it make me into a bitter person, and I didn't let it consume me. I still came out in the other end being me and the me that I'm supposed to be instead of what my trauma wanted to turn me into.
Yeah, you kind of think back and you have at least the opportunity. Some people didn't, right? And ultimately, God, I think I know about a handful of people that I know have died from domestic violence. at the hand of their significant other. And it's never easy. And if you sometimes you ignore those signs and you don't have a good plan to get out and you just keep ignoring it, you sometimes don't understand the risks where these people who lost their lives, they didn't think somebody could do something like that to them, and unfortunately it happened, right? You at least were able to get away. You almost didn't, but you were able to.
Yes, and I'm also proud that I didn't give up, considering the duration of the years. There were so many times that I wanted to give up, but there was always a small part of me that held on to that hope. And I'm glad I did, because I made it out on the other side, and I'm still kind, and I still have compassion, and I'm still me, and I survived.
And I think that's important for people to understand is what happened to you is not your fault. What does strength mean to you now compared to what you thought strength meant back then?
Well, back then I used to think that strength just meant getting through the day, just enduring it, getting by. Now I understand that strength is taking that first step. Strength is leaving. Strength is asking for help. Strength is using your voice, not just enduring it. Use the things that you have to change the situation you're in. Strength is reaching out, not being stuck.
That's really important. And I keep going back to the reaching out and having those conversations and talking with people. And make sure when you do talk with people, give them a little bit of opportunity to take it in. A lot of people, when they hear something right away, they might be like, if it's too shocking, they might say, that can't be real, really, because they may not come from that type of environment. They may not understand it. So I think it's important to make sure that the listener is ready as well to hear what you got to say.
Yes, you can't force anyone to take that first step. All you can do is be there for them, give them the resources, give them the understanding that what they're going through isn't okay. Help them take that next step, but you can't force them.
Be there, help guide them, give people some guide rails sometime. That's important. Set some boundaries, but also I think it's really important to just be there. Just even if you don't say anything and let somebody just talk and vent, let that happen. It may need to happen, and it may be the thing that helps them kind of get their mind ready to where they got to make that transitional change.
Yeah, sometimes that just means being on the other end of a phone listening to someone cry at 3 o'clock in the morning. But it's important that you're there for them because that might be their step.
What do you hope people remember about your story beyond the abuse itself?
I want them to remember that it's not just about what happened to me. It's about what can come after, the rebuilding, the healing, the rediscovering yourself. It's not just about what you survived. It's about you and that you made it through it.
Sometimes you really have to take action and do something that you're not comfortable doing. Going out and taking those risks, going and do something that scares you every day. Some people say that, and some people live by it. I wouldn't say go jump out of an airplane right away, but you do really want to enjoy your life. And this is your first podcast interview. A little nervous, right? It was
Yeah.
the same for me when I was interviewing the other person. I was more nervous than them, and my teeth were chattering. But it's like anything, you get through it. You have good support. You have people around you, and you got a story that people really need to hear. And that I think for them, it's more about this is what I went through. This is where I'm at now. I can be happy. I don't have to be miserable.
You don't have to let your trauma define you.
Exactly. What would you say to someone who is out of the abuse but still does not feel free inside yet?
I think I would say give yourself time to process. Sometimes your body needs a little bit more time to catch up, to know that you're safe. Your mind knows you're safe, but your body holds memories. So I would say time is the biggest thing. Sometimes your life changes before your body catches up.
I think that's a kind of an important thing when people who've been in that fight or flight trauma response, how detrimental to health that is sometimes when you're constantly running on adrenaline. Your body can only do that for so long. It's like running an engine at like maximum RPMs. Eventually, something's going to give. And I think that's where a lot of people don't really realize that trauma and being in that red line in your body creates that environment where your body just starts to kind of be like, oh, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, staying in survival mode is actually very exhausting, and you don't really realize that until you're out of it. And your body can relax and breathe, and you don't feel that high intensity, just constant.
When did you kind of have that first, like, where you slept like a baby and you're just like, you woke up and you're like, wow, this is weird?
Honestly, I think I do remember the first time that I slept really good and sound. And I didn't wake up to you hugging me tight because I was screaming with a nightmare. I don't remember when it happened, but I do remember the feeling because it was amazing. I woke up and I remember feeling, I didn't wake up crying and scared and feeling unsafe. Waking up feeling refreshed and safe. I don't even know the word to describe that feeling, but it was really good.
The happiest word anybody can think of, and I can't think of it right now, but maybe jubilation, right? Or something,
Right.
something happier than that.
Yeah.
Um, Now that this story has been told, what do you want the next chapter of your life to be defined by?
I would like it to be defined by peace, love, good friends, supportive family, living my life as my true self, and helping others, living my life and not just existing in it. I would like to have my story reach others and help them with what they're struggling.
When I set out to write the book, and when I helped with your story, and when we put everything together, and then when I started the podcast, to start really having the conversations with people to tell their story, just so that there's so many people who don't want to say their story, they don't want to tell it, they don't want to have it out there. I probably wouldn't do it on Facebook or Instagram. You want to have somebody you can talk to, and the internet's forever, right? So don't put stuff out there that you don't want out there forever. But I think it's really important to make sure you're starting that process.
Yes, it's definitely very important to keep your support system, reach out to others. I myself am hoping that I can maybe possibly work with some shelters in the future and share my story to reach others that are struggling. We all have different struggles in this world, and we're all just trying to get through it. So if we can help each other with our struggles, it's all the better. It makes it easier.
What is the simplest way you would say to another who has been through something similar?
Focus on yourself and try to fix yourself. Love yourself. Give yourself grace on the hard days. You're going to have those. You're going to struggle sometimes. You could be doing great for 6 months straight, and then something triggers you and you have a bad day. That's just one bad day. Don't let it drag you back into the darkness. Give yourself grace, mostly, because the guilt is heavy.
It very well is. It is heavy, and it tends to linger sometimes. Well, Bonnie, thank you for being on the show today. It's been a great conversation. Hopefully, people take something from this, and definitely you have helped change my life.
Thank you for having me. You have definitely had a huge change in my life. And I hope that together, sharing our stories, we can help others. Might not change the world, but we're going to help others one episode at a time.
For a long time, Bonnie was surviving, not living, not thriving, surviving. And I think that is something a lot of people quietly understand more than they admit. Maybe not in the exact same way, but in the feeling of constantly waiting for the next bad thing to happen. Living on edge, losing pieces of yourself, while telling yourself you're just getting through one more day. What stood out to me most in this conversation is something Bonnie said early on. She talked about the difference between existing and actually living. That hit me hard, because survival mode becomes normal when you sit in it long enough. You forget there is another way to feel. If you listened to the 6-part series, you heard the story of what happened. Today was about something just as important: what healing looked like afterward. The rebuilding, the setbacks, the slow return of confidence, hope, trust, and identity. Healing is messy. It is slow. Sometimes it feels unfair that after surviving something hard, you still have to do the work of rebuilding yourself. But Bonnie's story reminds us that rebuilding is possible. If you are in survival mode right now, if you feel trapped, exhausted, or like you have lost yourself somewhere along the way, please hear this. The way life feels today does not mean it is the way life has to feel forever. Sometimes healing starts with one small step. Sometimes it starts with hope. And sometimes it starts with hearing someone else's story and realizing maybe, just maybe, there is another side to this. You are not alone. Just a reminder, the stories and conversations in this podcast are for informational and personal reflection only. Nothing shared here should be taken as medical, legal, or professional advice. Always speak with a qualified professional about your own personal situation. Thank you for listening to No One Is Normal. If today's message resonated with you, you can find the book No One Is Normal on Amazon and Kindle, and explore more resources at www.bradhhill.com or www.nooneisnormal.co. Remember, you weren't meant to be normal, you were meant to be you.